Call this meeting to order. Ask Councilman Loman Scott to give the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight in your name and discuss these matters. And we hope that our decisions would be most pleasing to you. Please watch over our families, our first responders, and the citizens of this town. And we ask these things in your name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everybody here. Got a nice crowd. Town Attorney Mr. Eads is sick and he won't be here tonight. On presentations, proclamations, and recognitions, appreciation of Joe Stanton for his years of service on the ABC board.
Jack and I are here tonight representing the Oak Island ABC Board, and Joe has been a loyal and dedicated member of the board for many years, and now that he's leaving the board, we'd like to present him this plaque congratulating him with that service. We would have done it at our ABC board meeting this morning, but the attendance isn't quite as good. So Joe, we appreciate your service. And many happy trails to you and Mary, and good luck. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, the audit presented by Matt McLean with S. Preston Douglas and Associates.
Wow, standing room only. I'll make this quick because I know y'all didn't come here to see me tonight. So. But I am Matt McLean. I'm a manager and partner with S. Preston Douglas and Associates. I appreciate the opportunity to continued relationship with the town of Oak Island. It's always an entertaining and challenging process to perform this audit. A lot of moving parts within the town of Oak Island, but we enjoy it, and we enjoy working with the faculty and all of you, so we do appreciate it. But I want to start with this presentation, and if you all will turn to the table of contents, to the independent auditor's report. That's the most important report within this audit, and I'll just start from the top without reading the whole thing. We've audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the discretely presented component unit, which is the Oak Island ABC Board, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Oak Island, North Carolina, as of and for the year ended June 30, 2019. It's your responsibility as management for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And I was asked to talk a little bit about what is generally accepted accounting principles. And when we perform an audit, we're making sure that you all are following the 10 generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP. Number one is the principle of regularity. Are you adhering to the established rules and regulations of governmental accounting? Consistency. Are consistent standards being applied throughout the financial reporting process? Sincerity. Are the financial statements accurate and impartial? Permanence of methods. Are procedures consistently used in preparing these reports? Non-compensation. All aspects of a municipality's performance, whether positive or negative, must be fully reported with no prospect of debt compensation. Prudence. Speculation may not influence the reporting of financial data. Continuity. The valuations of assets assume the government's operations will continue. Periodicity. Revenues are reported by dividing standard accounting time periods, such as a fiscal year, as we're reporting on now. Materiality. Financial reports must fully disclose the organization's monetary situation. And finally, utmost good faith. Are all involved parties acting honestly? So, anytime we're auditing a municipality, we make sure, or we try to make sure, that the government is following these principles. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. It's our responsibility also as auditors to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. Dropping down to the bottom of page 5, we believe that the audit evidence we've obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for audit opinion. Top of page 6, in our opinion, based on our audit and the report of other auditors, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the discretely presented component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Oak Island for year ended June 30, 2019. What does that mean? It means you all had an unmodified opinion, the opinion that you all are looking for when having an audit performed. So basically a clean audit. We feel real comfortable with the numbers and how they're presented in the financial statements. We feel real comfortable with the internal control system, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. On page 9, this is the management's discussion and analysis. Basically, the Cliff Notes version of the financial statements. Anytime you want to get some quick numbers, you can refer to this set of statements here. And I want to talk about some of the financial highlights first of the town of Oak Island. The assets and deferred outflows of resources of the town of Oak Island exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources at the close of the fiscal year by $95.86 million. Net position is the primary indicator of the economic health of an organization, and at $96 million, it's doing pretty well. The government's total net position decreased by $16,962 during the period, so basically stayed the same across the board. And as the close of the current fiscal year, the town of Oak Island's governmental funds reported combined ending fund balances of $19.5 million, with a net decrease of $386,823 in fund balance. At the end of the current fiscal year, unassigned fund balance for the general fund was $12.2 million, or 69.52% of total governmental fund expenditures for the fiscal year. I think that's a pretty important number, and a number that I know the mayor and the entire council is pretty comfortable with. Living in a coastal town, having an unassigned fund balance is important, as much as possible. And right now at a 70% number, it gives you the flexibility to spend in case of a disaster like we've had over the past 3 years. All right, moving on, we'll take a little closer look at how the town performed. If you look on page 18 and 19, this is the statement of net position, or the balance sheet of the town of Oak Island. You see our current assets. Your current assets are at $52.3 million. Total assets at $193.35 million. Current liabilities at $7.276 million. Total liabilities of $98.9 million, leaving that total net position of $95.86 million. One of the areas we really pay close attention to when looking at a balance sheet is what's your working capital ratio? What does the liquidity look like of the organization? And at total current assets, and the way you reach that figure is your total current assets at $52 million divided by your current liabilities at $7 million leaves a working capital ratio of about 7, meaning that you can pay your current liabilities with your current assets 7 times. So again, it shows the liquidity along with the unassigned fund balance really helps in case of those disasters that may occur. I'm going to flip over to page 22 and we'll take a look at your governmental funds. Governmental funds include your general fund, your beach renourishment, beach preservation, beach tax, the accommodations tax fund, and the pier projects fund. And the total assets in these funds is $20.4 million. Liabilities at $815,000, leaving a fund balance of $20,421,628. Of course, this is without, capital assets and long-term liabilities that we talked about earlier. Again, unassigned fund balance in the governmental funds, again, is $12.2 million, which again, that's 69% of those total governmental expenditures we were talking about previously. On the next page, page 24, the income statement in our governmental funds, total revenues at $17.2 million, total expenditures of $17.5 million, leaving a deficiency of $289,768 in the income side of things on the governmental funds. So basically a flat year for the town of Oak Island's governmental funds. Finally, we're going to move over to the statement of fund net position of the proprietary funds on page 28 and 29. Proprietary funds include your water fund, your wastewater fund, South Harbor Golf Course Fund, Solid Waste, Stormwater, and the Pier Complex Fund. Total assets of the proprietary funds are $146.19 million. Total liabilities at $89.58 million, leaving a net position for your proprietary funds at $56.9 million. Again, from a working capital standpoint, current liabilities versus your current assets versus your current liabilities, again, it's 7. Plenty of flexibility there within those business type funds. And finally, your income statement on page 30, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net position. Total revenues for the business funds are $18 million. Operating expenses at $15.5 million, leaving an operating income of $2.5 million inside of these funds. Taking a look at our non-operating revenues and expenses, we're a negative $2.6 million, leaving a deficit of $164,229 inside those business type funds. Any questions on that? I know I zipped through that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that out somewhere that we can all look at?
Yeah, it will be. It'll be on the full audit. Will be on your website this week, so you'll be able to look at all this. Sure, I understand that. I understand. Sure. I apologize. I don't have that.
Was it supposed to be in this?
It is not.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Page 32 and 33. Schedule of ad valorem taxes receivable and the analysis of current tax levy. Taxes collected as of June 30, 2019 were $8,353,000. Current levy collection percentage at 99.17%. So, I mean, that's big. That's big. They're obviously doing a great job over at in the collections department. A lot more taxes to collect this year, and they've done a tremendous job. And over the past, how many years now? Several years, they've hovered above that 99% number. So they're doing a tremendous job over in the collections department. And finally, these last two reports, reporting on internal control. You know, obviously the numbers matter to you all. But what I think is the most important is the system behind the numbers. You know, the maintenance and the implementation of internal control and the checks and balances that go behind finding these numbers and making sure that they're presented accurately and fairly. And since working with Dave Hatton in the finance department, they do a tremendous job at that. They really do. And we're real comfortable with how conservative they are. And it's almost ultra conservative. But, you know, they do an extremely good job in making sure that these numbers are accurate and fair. And you can, yes, sir.
Matt.
Absolutely. Give yourselves a hand. I'm all about that.
Matt,
Yes, sir.
please address us.
What's that?
Just address the council.
Okay, no problem. So, council, any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation, and I appreciated the brief outline of GAAP accounting procedures, because I think that's something most people are probably not terribly familiar with. Congratulations to Mr. Hatton and his team on another unqualified audit, meaning no recommendations for improvement, and the assurance that all funds have been handled properly. I want to go back to the free balance question. I ask this each year. What is the standard amount for a non-coastal community in terms of holding free balance?
The standard amount is 25%.
Okay, and for a coastal community, it would be, is there a standard?
There's a standard of 25%.
Okay, and we're at 69%.
Correct.
At what point should we consider capping that as an excessive free balance? Because these are tax dollars held in abeyance for potential disaster.
Sure.
Is there an upper limit that you see?
I don't, and really, you know, as we've analyzed the numbers, I think it would be extremely difficult to reach a higher unassigned balance than what you all have. However, having that amount of funds available in case of an emergency, you know, I think that, you know, most coastal towns try to work well above that 25% range.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me rephrase the question, because this reflects, as you suggested in your report, very conservative stewardship, which I applaud. We've had, you know, a series of hurricanes, 3 hurricanes in 4 years, so it makes sense. But at what point would that free balance number be so high as to be a concern to the auditors? Or would it never be a concern?
It wouldn't be a concern.
Okay. Let me ask a different question then. The net position fluctuation, you mentioned $16,000. If I understood the audit correctly, that's a function of grants that have expired. Is that correct, largely?
It is. This particular year, you all spent over, I don't know exactly what the amount was, but a significant amount of expenditures that had to do with Hurricane Florence. Next year, you'll receive the grant revenue for those expenditures. So even though it is a flat year, more than likely, and knock on wood, we don't have any other disasters, that, you know, you should see net position increase based on the grant revenue that's coming in now.
Okay. And final question. Last year, we transferred funds that were held in escrow.
Yes.
It didn't appear in the audit, and I know we brought this up when you presented to council and small group. That problem has been corrected.
It has been corrected.
Okay. And will not occur again.
It will not occur again.
Thank you.
As I understand it, and some people think that's excessive, but basically when you do the math, we're somewhere around, we can pay our bills for 260 days approximately.
That's absolutely right. So
Being a beach town, hadn't we better have that?
I agree wholeheartedly. That's almost just about a full year working days that employees can be paid and expenditures can be paid. So that's obviously you're in a good spot, in my opinion.
No, I concur. My concern was, is there an upper limit which would trip a concern for auditors? And what I heard you say is we're approaching the upper limit. Probably given our financial composition and mixture, we're not going to get any higher.
That's correct.
Councilman, anybody? We want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Next item is adjustment or approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, on new business number 3, discussion of speed limit on West Dolphin Drive. If it's the pleasure of the board, I'd like to change that to say discussion on an ordinance adjustment to change the speed limit to 35 miles an hour on West Dolphin Drive.
Did you want discussion or consideration of it?
No, discussion, yes.
Discussion of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Any others?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add under new business, number, I'll say 6, amendments to the pier fishing fees,
That'll be old business.
It'd be
the old business.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number 2.
Old business be number 2.
Well, we already got it on there. It's number 3 under old business.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion I'd like to add for the development of a business plan for the 801 complex, which I believe the members have a copy of.
All right.
Is that old as well? So number 3, old?
Yep, number 3 old, number 2 old on there.
Clarification, Lisa.
Yes, sir.
On the speed limit thing, that would be new business, correct?
It's already listed under new business.
But all the other items would be old business,
Yes, sir.
all right? Any other? In that case, make a motion to amend the vote, motion
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
as amended.
Second?
All in favor? Everybody? Okay. 1 second. Consent agenda. A motion to approve.
No, public comments.
Public comments. Public comments.
Oh, wait, yeah, I'm sorry. Wrote all over it. All right, public comments, I'm sorry, writing all that in.
Nobody added that. I'm sorry, can you give me 1 second?
Hold on a
The
minute.
motion for,
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Where's that old one? Thank you.
no, I'm sorry. New.
Pardon us,
You're on-
Mayor.
You're under, your motion about the study for 801 is under new.
That's what it should be. Okay, very good. Thank you. Just clarifying where my motion would be located, it's in new business.
No, I'm sorry,
Old
that is
business.
old, because we talked about it at the retreat agenda.
No business. That makes it aged
Yes,
48 hours? Okay, fair enough.
Last chance.
old.
Okay. Public comment? We got-
Yes, sir, we have a number of public comments. Ruth Deal. And I have a fancy timer I'm going to put on the screen. We'll see how that goes.
It's gonna have to, or we'll be here till midnight.
I'm Keith Deal. I live at 244 Northeast 63rd Street. Thank you, Mayor and Board, for giving me an opportunity to speak with you tonight. I had read on online and on Facebook some about the sticker or getting back on the island after a storm or something that's of that nature. I just wish that y'all would look at that very careful, because most everyone that lives on the island permanently has their driver's license and their tax bill and everything else down the line showing that they live on the island. And I would just appreciate it, and I know some of the rest of the people out here would appreciate it if you would just look at that very careful. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Martha Slimick.
Martha Slimick, 108 Paul Circle, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society, Incorporated, Adopt the Beach Access Program. We are a program of approximately 86 wonderful beach lover volunteers who have adopted one of the 67 beach accesses on the island. Adoption is open to the public, individuals, families, businesses, church groups, civic organizations, residents and non-residents of Oak Island. The volunteers are responsible for cleaning the parking areas associated with the accesses and cleaning the beach halfway to the next access in both directions, requesting pickup of storm debris, tires, and other large or heavy items from the Department of Public Works, reporting damages to parking areas, signs, sand fence, dune vegetations, and trash cans, and this is also reported to the Department of Public Works. We also keep the doggy boxes full. These duties are done at least once a month, and during tourist season more frequently, before, during, and after major holidays or events. These volunteers really help keep Oak Island the place that the residents and visitors love. The Adopt a Beach Access Program is over 20 years old, and it was one of the earliest contributions of the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society. Our hope is that Council will consider this legacy and help facilitate its continuation. As Council considers a yearly parking fee of $20, we Access parents hope you will adopt an alternative for those who come to the beach as its caretakers. Instead of paying $20 for a parking sticker, could we have a complimentary hang tag to identify our contribution and let us park in a town space? Thank you thoughtfully for considering this.
Lee Milburn Burke.
My name is Lee Milburn Burke. I live at 149 Northeast 4th Street in Oak Island. I also would like to speak to the parking stickers for the beach and for the stickers for reentry after a catastrophe. I believe that the stickers for reentry may be needed if people have more than one car and or children who don't have driver's license, et cetera, et cetera. $20 is excessive for both. A parking sticker, I just had a gentleman tell me that He had a parking sticker for the beach last year and was unable to park on the beach. Somebody else said they did not have the money to pay $20 to have reentry onto the Oak Island. So I would hopefully request that you would carefully think about this. Everybody that lives on Oak Island should have a driver's license, a school identification, or some other identification to get them back on to the beach. I was also asked to request that everybody in the audience who is against these passes, please stand. And that request was made in the hope that it may help to shorten the agenda. Reason for the request. Thank you for your time.
Dara Boyle.
Darrell Royal, 216 Northeast 47th Street. Town parking decals. When parking for residents and property owners was first implemented in 2008, the decals were free. In 2013, the town began charging a fee of $5 every 2 years for a town parking decal. Increasing the number of spaces for town decal parking from 122 to 200, as proposed, is a 63.9% increase, which, along with accounting for inflation, justifies raising the cost to $10 every 2 years, all other things being equal. It does not justify charging $20 every year, a 700% increase, unless there are significant additional expenses directly related to parking for residents and property owners only. Speed limits on West Dolphin Drive. No doubt most people who travel West Dolphin Drive with any regularity are more interested in fixing the dips than changing the speed limit. But while you're on the topic of speed limit changes, consider moving forward with implementing action I-32 on page 529 in the 2017 Comprehensive Land Use Plan, which states in part, the town supports the following roadway improvements which were identified by the CPAC. The CPAC is the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. The speed limit on East Oak Island Drive should be evaluated. A request should be made to NCDOT to conduct a speed limit study of all state-maintained roads on the island. UDO amendment. The previous development ordinance did require major subdivisions, defined as more than 4 lots, to dedicate land for the purpose of parks, recreation, and/or open space, or provide fees in lieu, according to specific requirements for land suitability. But in the transition to the UDO, some requirements were revised or dropped, and those changes did weaken the code. One change was the elimination of consultation with the Town Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I encourage you to include them in the process of developing language to modify the UDO subdivision requirements. As always, thank you for your consideration.
Larry Krinsky.
Hi, Larry Krinsky, 309 Northeast 57th Street. Appreciate the opportunity for coming and speaking to you. I too am concerned about the parking passes. You saw everybody stand up here. Not quite sure whether they were more concerned about the hurricane stickers or the parking passes, but I too am concerned about both, but I'm going to speak to the parking stickers. Number one, I'm not sure what problem that you're trying to fix. You implemented that. I haven't heard any information saying that there's something broken about the process that we have now. But as it turns out, I'm a rental property owner in addition to a property owner. So every time you take a parking sticker away from them, or giving a parking sticker to the town, you're taking a parking sticker away from those who rent down here. And anybody that pays taxes down here, I would have liked to have heard the auditor speak to how much income do you have from the rental properties and the sales tax income and the taxes that come from the rental properties. All it takes is to lose one week of rental, and how many multiples of that $10 or $20 parking sticker are you going to lose? So, number one, I don't understand what's broken, and number two, I want you to realize the implications. This is a beach community. A lot of that income that we're talking about is funded by sales tax and property taxes that are generated by that, and I'm hoping that you're considering the implications to that as well. Thank you.
Ronnie Stocks.
My name's Ronnie Stocks. I live at 2526 West Beach Drive. I've lived on Oak Island since 1984. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to y'all tonight. I'm an owner of the Golf Cart Outlet, established in 1999. My company owns 3 shops, one in Southport, Wilmington, and Sunset Beach. We serve the southeastern North Carolina. We have also one 15,000 square foot licensed manufactory, which is in Longwood, North Carolina. We've been selling these low-speed vehicles on the East Coast. We were the first ones to ever do it. I think Pete Marley is supposed to be here today from Pete's Golf Cart. Pete, if you're here, would you stand? He must be selling a golf cart somewhere. But we propose to change the speed limit to West Dauphin, reduce it to 35 miles an hour year-round. This will allow our residents to use low-speed vehicles throughout the year, just like the rest of the islanders. The current speed limit now is 45. 268 days approximately out of the year, we can't use a low-speed vehicle on West Dauphin or the whole west end of the island. There's only about 92 days between Memorial Day and Labor Day that we're allowed to use a low-speed vehicles. Can you drive a low-speed vehicle to your houses? Have you got the right to drive one to your driveway? You don't. You don't live on the island?
I live in Oak Island, but I don't live on this side of Oak Island.
Okay.
So it
Well,
means I can't drive.
Majority of the people, except for the West End, has been denied the right to drive these. And I'm just seeking the same rights that majority of the islanders have. And I just don't think it's fair that you have one side of the island that you can drive it year-round and you can't on the West End. It just don't seem fair. The police officers are very knowledgeable of the laws. They're regulated and enforcing them. When I tell a renter that wants to rent a golf cart during the off-season that it cannot use it legally, they tell me to bring it anyway. I'll worry about the police. So I'll deliver it, knowing they're breaking the law. So this is creating a conflict of interest between the tourism, the law enforcement, and the homeowners who have houses with a low-speed vehicle there. The low-speed vehicles are constantly being improved. They're new lithium-ion
Your
batteries.
3 minutes is up.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ronald.
Helen Cashwell.
Good evening. I'm Helen Cashwell, 3407 East Yacht Drive. At the budget meeting that was held this past week, using Pell Mill money on hand that we will use this year's money as well to repair the streets was in the budget proposal. And this brought to mind what the town is not doing to enforce their own responsibilities. Pell Mill money comes from the North Carolina line item in their operating budget and is given to all towns for street maintenance yearly based on the number of miles in the official town limits. Development Services is very busy enforcing citizens' lack of caring for the right-of-ways on their property, yet the town is very remiss in the condition of their own properties as the street ends. Pell Mill money is given to the town yearly based on the mileage in the town for maintenance and repairs, and that town calculates the money by the mileage in the street ends to the middle of the intercoastal waterway, as well as the normal streets. In the past years, councils for the town have been made aware of street end importance because of the lawsuit about what can and cannot be put in a street end. At the same time, the issue of citizens believing that half of that vacant lot on a street end belongs to them was made aware that space was for access, just like on any street, for in and out of their property. Yet the town has stood by and watched that space being increasingly used for storage, cars, boats, and various items, and blocking access to the water for any citizen that would like to fish or just visit the water site. Street right-of-way misuse has been going on without town's enforcement since the town was created. I believe, and I'm sure if citizens knew about the responsibility of the town using Pell Mill money based on the mileage garnered from street ends, they'd want the town to take care of its own responsibility before coming after the private citizens. How will the town repair, maintain, and open those street ends as we move forward with street paving in their current conditions? Since access to the waterways and decals for that access is an ongoing topic, keep in mind Town Council should consider all of the options available. In the past 2 years, I'm sorry to say, we've not received any sand in our beaches, and now the condition and the lack of that sand and lack of dunes facing hurricanes is not a pleasant picture. This council has a lot of work to accomplish. I wish them the best, and we'll look forward to them serving our community the best way possible.
Margaret Ann Johnson.
Mayor Thomas, council members, town staff, I'm Margaret Ann Johnson, 1716 West Dolphin Drive, and current chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee. I want to bring to your attention some astounding environmental feats. Thriving North Carolina community is graced with the gift of trees. Annual Earth Day celebration, bigger and better than the year before. Titillating, informative programs presented by renowned professional experts, free of charge to the public. Spectacular cleanups on the roadways and the marshes. State-of-art recycling initiatives. You probably thought I was going to talk about Charlotte receiving over 2,000 trees from the GOP. Or maybe I was going to talk about the spectacular Earth Day celebration in Wilmington. Or maybe free programs on UNC TV from Chapel Hill. Or the spectacular cleanups in Raleigh. Or UNCW styrofoam and recycling initiatives and other initiatives in Raleigh. But no, I'm talking about your Environmental Advisory Committee and the spectacular things that this committee is doing for this town. The town purchased recently over 20 trees, mostly live oaks, as a recipient of the award of $5,000, a grant from the NC Urban Forestry Legacy Tree Fund. The Earth Day celebration this year will be bigger and better than ever before. Last year we had 26 exhibitors, 5 booths. We had participants from all over the town and the county, Smart Yard, Enviroscape, Bird Information, and many EAC volunteers participated in it. We have had many programs presented for free of charge on issues concerning this island. And state-of-the-art recycling initiatives are in the format of being worked on. We're clarifying confusing requirements, providing opportunities for environmentally safe, effective disposal of items like non-biodegradable landfill cloggers, electronics, and styrofoam. We want to partner with UNCW Styrofoam Initiative. Our members are visiting the many recycling perspectives all over this state and coming back with research. EAC is bringing this town into the 21st century environmental issues conversation. It's all connected and it matters for the health and longevity of our community. We cannot afford to be small-minded any longer. We have to take action. And while I know that it may sound trite, knowledge is power. Sir Francis Bacon said that, and we have the power and the knowledge to help this community to become a better and safer environmental place. There's a Leviathan that is plaguing us in the sea. That Leviathan is not as bad as Job's, but we can contain it and we can control it. I have one word to say to you, just one word: plastics. Thank you.
Georgia Reed. No. Liz Grimm.
Good evening, Liz Grimm, live on Northwest 13th. I wanted to talk to you about the decal, which is now not on the table. How many of us pay taxes here? Stand up. We pay taxes. We live here. We came out and we showed our support tonight to show that we are vested in this decision. And now it's not going to be on the agenda. Most people in here probably did come in to hear what was going on. There were emails back and forth. Several of you said that it would be on the agenda. People made time to come out and hear this. We've heard since October that there was a plan for this. It's now the middle of February, and now we're hearing that there is no plan for this. We need more information. But in October, we were told that there was a plan for the decals and the reentry. It's not going to be easy, but I think we all deserve to hear a presentation of what's going to happen and how it's going to affect us. In December, people came to Town Hall and asked for the 2020 through 2021, the end of 2021, parking decals. In January, we came back because they were still not available, and we were told that they would not be available until the end of March. And in the proposed plan that's been discussed, highly discussed, the decals are not going to be available until the end of March, and then they double. At least one of the decals double as of April 1st. Why do they double April 1st? What happens April 2nd? What changes so much that they need to increase? But again, why are they not going to be available until the end of March? We deserve to have more time to talk about what's going on. You deserve to have our feedback. The staff deserves to have our feedback. The staff has worked on this plan for months. Everybody deserves to have more information about this. You want engagement. You preached engagement. You guys have done a really good job, except for you get engagement and now it's not even going to be on the agenda. And several of you told me it would be on the agenda tonight. And that's respectfully a little disappointing. So please, before you vote on this, please give us all a presentation and explain it to us. And please don't just copy Wrightsville Beach's plan. There are plenty of other beaches to consider. Thank you.
Kay Barkalow.
Good evening. I'm Ray Barkalow. I live at 1304 West Yacht Drive. I just want to make a comment right up front here. I'm currently in the middle of taking this Citizens Academy thing, which is really good. If you haven't done it, do it. The good news is, and I think that Mr. Kelly probably is the biggest proponent of this, it turns you into a zealot to try to get things done for the town. The bad news is it turns you into a zealot to come here and talk to you guys about things that ain't being done. Okay. Concerning the parking thing, this whole business about raising the fees strikes me as having absolutely no purpose whatsoever unless, as far as remediating the issue of parking at the beach. Unless, of course, your goal is to discourage some people from buying permits. Simple as that. What we should be doing is looking at how do we create more space and how do we manage it better with residents, renters, and day trippers, all right? I emailed each of you I won't call it a proposal, I'll say a description of something that I had seen in other communities around, not North Carolina communities, Florida, up the East Coast, even out on the West Coast. And it probably is the far opposite end of the spectrum from where we stand today. It's very restrictive. I sure as hell don't want to turn this place into the Jersey Shore, okay? But it's something that I think you should consider, simple as that. And maybe come up with somewhere in between that will be satisfactory. Maybe it's a compromise for all involved, but it's a compromise and not just a decree. Concerning these re-entry permits, one question I have is, what is the purpose of this re-entry permit? If it's for the convenience of the police that got to sit there at the bridges and decide who gets to come on, wonderful. I think that's absolutely great. But you know what? 99.1% of us are taxpayers, and it seems to me that we are entitled to be to our property. As a matter of fact, it was brought up at the Citizens Academy meeting on Thursday, last one, that you can't legally prevent people from having access to the property. Now, granted, we were talking about those houses being built out at the point and going through the parking lot, but I would think it applies more broadly, so we need to think about that. So, and if safety is the concern, I just got to ask, if I give you $40, does that mean I suddenly have all the skills necessary to be safely on I'm not Lori Laughlin going to pay so I get a degree for my kid, okay? So I think it's just something you need to think about. Thank you very much.
Jerry Hardy.
Good evening. Jerry Hardy, 134 Northeast 11th Street. I'm with the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society, Incorporated. First, let me thank those of you that participated. We had nearly 30 people helping to place used Christmas trees on the dunes from Montgomery back toward, I believe, Nelson. We had 84 trees staked, and with the wind and storms that we had this past week, they held in place and collected sand. And so it's a good first step in helping to provide a way to recycle and then also to help add to our dunes. We'd also like to thank Mr. Hennett for his fine coverage in last week's pilot.
These are exciting times for the Beach Preservation Society, so please mark your calendar for, number one, February 26th at 7 p.m. at the Oak Island Event Center. Professor Roger Shue from UNCW will be talking to us about the origin and current geology of Oak Island. You may have heard Professor Shue speak before, but this lecture is specific to Oak Island. So we want to encourage you to come out to the 801 Event Center. You can register at beachoki.org. We ask you to do that so that we can have enough chairs and tables for everyone. Next on our calendar is April 4. That is our famous wine tasting fundraiser. It will be held also at the 801 Event Center from 1 to 4 p.m. In years past, we were at Island Way, and we certainly want to thank the Cook family for all their support over the years. We just outgrew it. And so we are looking forward to more space, more auction items, and a longer time to be with friends and members. Tickets for the members are $35. Those are on sale. I have some with me tonight, and you're welcome to see me later. If you're not a member, I also have membership forms, and you're welcome to see me about that. All funds go to support the education and community engagement that results in a better beach for us all. Special thanks to the town for the special rate they provide for us. We appreciate that very much. And then finally, with respects to the council's proposal on increased parking, we would ask, as Martha said earlier, that you would give consideration to the many volunteers that put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hard work into making sure that our access points are clean, are safe, and well kept so that the tourists will want to come back year after year. So we appreciate anything you can do to relieve the burden. Thank you.
Edward Drzwicki.
Ed Drzwicki, 128 Northwest 19th Street. Enough said about the stickers, I think. I'm here to talk about West Dolphin. For no other reason, I drive around town quite a bit, and I drive down East Dolphin all the time, and East Dolphin's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and West Dolphin's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. And most of the other streets in town, the main corridors are 35, with the exception of West Oak Island. For no other reason, uniformity should be brought into a case here where the streets are all at the same basic speed limit. And as far as the repair of West Oak Island, if you ever drove down, West Dolphin, if you ever drove down West Dolphin, it is unbelievably bad. As far as the dips in that road, and it looks like they've been repaired, and the repair is dipping in, and your car will literally, well, my beach vehicle will bottom out. The dips are so bad. So there's, just because of the shape of the road, that speed limit should not be 45 miles an hour. And I also support the idea of, in the major development, the major divisions, to add some green space. I don't see how anybody would be against that. Thank you.
Christina Dooley.
Christina Dooley, I live on Northwest 12th Street. Excuse me. So I don't think enough can be said about the parking decals. So I'm going to reiterate just a few points, then I'm going to move on. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction. I think there was a problem during some hurricanes. I think there is something that needs to be done. I do not think a $20 parking decal that goes to $40 is in anyone's best interest. I think people who can't afford it will stay because they're afraid to leave and not get back on. So people who should leave won't. And then the people that want to get back on, do they have to pay more on the mainland? Because that's what I read. I do support the contractor pass so that we don't get a ton of people from out of town trying to fix trees and charging, out the wazoo for that. Okay, so that's my thing on that. I think they should be mailed in my water bill in April. I think that's when my parking pass should come for free.
So my other thing that I just saw on the agenda, so I don't have a lot of written remarks, but a development of a business plan for the 801 Event Center is just now being considered. We've been in business since 2020, no, sorry, that's 2020 now. We've been in business for, what, a year, maybe, on that 801 Center? No, not quite that long. Okay, so we bought a business without having a business plan in place. And now, Councilman Bach, I appreciate your effort to get a business plan in place for $15,000. So where does that money come from? And I have heard in the past, I believe it was Councilman Bach, who actually positioned having an economic development staff. That might be something that we could put our $15,000 toward, looking into an economic development staff, so that these things don't come back up after we've already been in business for 8 months or however long it's been. Thank you.
Glenn Baker.
Glenn Baker. I live on 110 Northeast 16th Street. I appreciate your time. One of the issues that I was concerned about, and I didn't see it on the agenda that you put up that was online, was the annexation of Pine Forest. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Pine Forest is across roughly near the Holiday Inn off of 211 and near Midway. It's a rather large residential area that's going to be put in there now, and you can see the development going on. And one of the things I'm really concerned about is we take our time, because they put in a consideration of annexation, and this would be the part of Oak Island. Currently, it's half Oak Island and then half of Brunswick County. Now, it happened back in December that the company that owns the Pine Forest, which is what I thought was disingenuous, would put in the financial information. They actually wanted the town of Oak Island to pay for some of their bonds. Okay? And I emailed quite a few of you folks on the city council, and you said, and I'll quote, "Thanks for writing. I believe someone jumped the gun on this one, and we are far from discussing this matter and a lack of necessary information." I'm just concerned that we as citizens don't really, seems like sometimes we're kept in the dark on what's going on, i.e., we all thought that the sticker thing was going to happen today, okay? But yes, the sticker thing is very important, but to me, this has a larger effect on us as taxpayers, because we're going to take on a rather large subdivision that's going on out there that's supposedly big enough to hold schools. They have already got some medical building built there. I mean, it's huge. And now I will transition to the sticker thing. Okay? I have to. My wife and I have no issues paying the $20 for the sticker. Okay? And I'm not talking about the hurricane pass to get on. I'm talking about, there are numerous times when we went to go to the beach and there were cars that were in our spots as town residents that don't have the sticker, and it seems like, from our point of view, nothing was enforced on those folks, okay? So what we're asking is, fine, if you raise it to $20, enforce it a little bit more than what we've seen. And also, I'm not sure why the town of Oak Island is in the real estate business with the 801. Thank you for your time.
That's all I had signed up.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Council report. Mayor and council, I wanted to thank.
Mr. Mayor.
Let's take a break.
We'll take a break first.
Okay.
Get on Lisa.
We're missing Lisa.
Where'd she go? Yeah, we can't go on.
She went to print a few more agendas for this lady right here.
There she is. Right there.
I don't think it's been 10 minutes. You,
Right there. Right there. Pink. She took her sweatshirt off and lifted it and back
I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing.
No. It's a problem.
They ain't talking about nothing.
I know. I don't know no better.
She took her sweatshirt off.
we'll come to order. Council reports, and we're going to start left to right, or my left.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank all of you for coming out. Thank you for your emails, phone calls, various solicitations in the grocery store, et cetera. And I think engagement is a powerful thing, especially for a small town, especially for local governance. But I will say once again, the internet is a blessing and it's also a curse. There are enormous distortions out there, some of which I'm hearing again tonight. So I'd like to set the record straight. Council retreats are designed to be part brainstorming, part preview of the budget, part discussion. Yes, there were items submitted, two in fact that were commingled, the sticker, preferred parking for resident, hurricane reentry. And we did have a discussion, and the motion was on the floor. And that discussion led to me recommending we table it because the significance of it was clear and there was long-term impact and import that needed to be discerned. We needed more time. I've taken the time to discern. It's not on the agenda because I don't support it. First of all, I don't think these two proposals should be commingled and intertwined. As we heard tonight, there's a lot of concern and interest in our parking system on our island. Hurricane is quite another matter. So let me start with our local situation. Anyone who was alive last year and tuned into this knows we spent a good part of the year talking about parking. Why is that? Not because of paid parking, but because parking endemically is a problem on an island. Going back to the sticker system, which started in '08, which you heard, and then the decision to charge a fee. When you have demand outstripping supply, it's difficult to come up with a system that harmonizes the interests of residents and tourists who generate revenue. And we haven't solved that problem. And yes, we've explored, those of you who were here last year, off-site parking, off-island parking. We went through a number of variants without a conclusion other than paid parking was not something a majority of this council would support. So, we have work to do, yes. And my recommendation to the administration is put this back on the agenda for March, and we'll have a discussion just about the parking sticker. And I think that will be an interesting discussion about cost, about access, how we harmonize the interests of these disparate groups, residents, in this case, tourists, thousands of tourists, who are our livelihood in some sense, driver of our economy. That was a discussion in '08, hasn't changed. We have not solved that problem. And it's going to take some creativity, and as someone suggested, common sense and compromise to solve it. So people can make speeches, that's fine. That is not going to get it done on the ground. It's going to take hard work and compromise, and people who are really focused on how we solve this problem. That's over there. The hurricane reentry plan, as noted, was a proposal transposed from another community. First of all, and most importantly for me, I'll speak just for myself on this, when government imposes a regulation or a financial burden or compels action from citizens, there needs to be a defining rationale. I couldn't find one. And to me, the other details are less important than what's the reason? And that's what echoed through my emails and the phone calls I received from many of you. And I can't answer that question, therefore I can't support this proposal. I don't know why. I'm less concerned about the dollar numbers than what's the reason for it. How we make it work is a whole other question. Let me just say, going through it and looking at the details, the one that jumps out at me as being completely untenable for us as a community, I just don't think we would support it, is the idea that you would have emergency personnel responding to the article to the island in private vehicles, presumably in uniform or credentialed, and we're going to charge them. I mean, that's just utterly unacceptable. So this is complicated too. This is going to take time. I've asked the administration to redraft this and to have a public hearing on it so that we can get to the answer to some of these questions. Are we all going to arrive at a unanimous verdict? Probably not. Probably not. This, again, is going to take common sense, compromise, getting a system that's workable. But for us to compel residents who have perfectly legitimate ID to pay to re-enter is problematic. On the other hand, to have an unregulated re-entry is problematic, trust me. So we're going to have to find the middle ground on this issue as well. I just want to comment on a couple of other things which are fascinating to me 2 years into my first term. Yes, I did propose an economic development officer. And yes, I continue to think that's what we need. Because frankly, we're not an entrepreneurial body. That's not what we're about. But that proposal was not supported and is dead in terms of the majority support it would need. Did we enter into the purchase of a property without a clearly defined, articulated traditional business plan? Yes. But here's the issue. We have $1 million at stake here, folks. And we need to support the current peer manager. We need to know what it would take to make it viable. And more importantly, the 2-year clock on viability is running. We need to know how to make an informed decision with data. Not with instinct, not with emotion, but with data. That's what we need. We need to make it go. If we can't, well, then we need to know what the basis for the decision will be. And I'm talking about continuing investment, which we all know is going to occur. So that's the logic there. Pine Forest, yes, it's a huge development. And I have been at the forefront of that along with my colleagues. We have constantly modified our UDO. Bigger roads, less setbacks, more lights, bigger money, on and on it goes. But they have not been given a free ride by this council. And I resent the sentiment that we did. That's not been the case. Anybody who's attended these meetings knows that they've been held to a very strict standard. And they have argued and won some concessions and not others. So again, I think there's a lot of information floating around out there. A good portion of it is not accurate in terms of what's happened. This proposal, as far as I'm concerned, is tabled and dead on arrival. And so we're going to start over. And we're going to have a hearing, and we're going to have public input, and hopefully, as I say, we can resolve some of these controversies. Because we do need a reentry system. We do need some kind of a parking system. And none of those things are going to be perfect. But they can be workable. They can be common sense and orientation. And they can, I think, ultimately be supported by all of us at some level. So, again, thank you for coming out. Thank you for expressing your opinion. We hear you. We do. We hear you. And I think we're going to proceed in a way that will resolve some of these issues, at least for this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you guys for coming out. We really do hear you. I appreciate you being much more respectful than the emails that I received. When you start off the email, well, you stupid idiots, I kind of get defensive. So if I replied to you in a non-professional manner, I do apologize. But thank you guys tonight. We really did hear you. I think that staff put together some information to basically get us talking about the parking stickers, talking about the re-entry. The way I feel right now after speaking with some of you, listening to you, we do need the parking stickers. You know that we have parking issues. I think that we need to decide whether we're going to do the 2-year $5 like we have been doing. Basically, we've got staff pretty much as a standstill right this minute because we don't have parking stickers. As far as the re-entry for the hurricane is concerned, I think that you pretty much said, you're not in favor of that. We hear you. So anyway, thank you for being respectful.
I want to thank the people in the Oak Island Citizens Academy that's learning how government works. I do want to mention we'll have my mayor's meeting with the citizens next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And
Again, like everybody else, thank you for coming. I know this is going to bother some people, but I have to say it. I find myself agreeing with Councilman Bach and a lot of I know it scares the heck out of him, so.
It's not just Shield, but now Shield.
Yeah, I know, it is. I don't know what's going on here. But I do want to thank you all for your input. I will tell you one thing. If you send me something and it's disrespectful, you will get, if you get a response, it'll be what my grandma used to say. Well, bless your heart.
yeah.
So if you keep it respectable, I'll gladly converse with you. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all for coming tonight. I appreciate it, seeing everybody here. John, thank you for telling us
Articulating.
your stance that I already knew about. A couple things about the workshop, which I've been part of for 8 years when we go into workshops. It is a lot of discussion, a lot of topics coming up to us. There was tons of things we were talking about, discussing, bouncing off walls. Some of the things y'all have not heard about. We talked about the rec center. What are we going to do about the rec center? Talked about maybe adding another building, getting somebody to come into the old building and look and see if it's worth fixing. We talked about that. I thought that was a wonderful topic. We talked about stormwater. We talked about what we needed to do to keep getting our stormwater under control, and the staff we'll need to make sure in the next storm we have all that ready to go. We also talked about our beach. We talked about where we're at on it, where our engineers are on it, and what we need to do next. Where's the sand going to come from? We talked about all the roads, what we're going to pave and how we're going to pave. I asked for a dollar mark to finish the roads up to see how much it was going to cost us to finish them. We also talked about paying off the general fund. What was the odds if we got penalized? Would we save money on the general fund by saving on interest to be able to get that paid off a year early? But none of that was ever mentioned. To me, that's wonderful news if we can do stuff like that. Don't always pay attention to Facebook stuff. It's not always accurate. I'm glad people get on there and talk. I do my best to talk and answer questions, but sometimes answering the questions is never a concern, or people really don't care about your answers. But we had something we didn't like on this parking, on the decals, and that was tabled and I knew it was tabled. But like I said, thank y'all for the input. I don't never stop talking on Facebook. I really don't. I try to keep everybody informed. And if we can do some of these things that we talked about, because I'm going to tell you our top three that we decided on, the whole council, was beach, rec center, and stormwater was our top three that we need to concentrate on the year and see what we need to do. But thank y'all for coming out tonight.
Thank y'all. Now we move to the consent agenda. The motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor? Everybody. Committee appointments. No applicants received prior to printing agenda. Move on to administrative reports. David Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Work still continues on the pier. I know that has been drawn on for a long time. There's a few punch list items and things that need to be completed, so those are being done now. And also to put the pump in for the live bait tank at the end for the kingfishing. As Councilman Weinkauf discussed, there's some things that were discussed at the retreat that they have asked for, so the information will be coming back and the budget calendar will be set, and we'll start working on those going forward. The item that got everybody here was one that I put on the agenda for the retreat, and it was something to get all the discussions and everything started. I did not think that all the numbers were going to be accepted or things like that. It was something to get hopefully everybody involved. It is a process that takes time, and it's a process that we've been working on for a few years, and it was something that needed to get out in front. So I thank y'all very much for bringing everything forward to us. And as I do tell the Citizens Academy, you're the ones that make this, and we need to get y'all involved in the community. So I do appreciate everything that's come forward. So we are going to be working on the plan, as Councilman Bach addressed a few minutes ago. And that's my report at this time.
Okay, town attorney ain't here. We'll go to old business, consideration of contract with North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, grant funding for improvements at the Cabana. And this, I guess, is to approve accepting the grant money.
Yes, sir. Sure is.
So, we have a motion.
Is there anything you need to say about this, David?
No, ma'am. It's the same thing we've discussed for the last two times in front of you. Now that we have been awarded it, it's time for us to accept it. There is some work that we'll start doing on what the Cabanas wants to look like, and we'll be bringing that back to y'all during the budgetary process.
I make a motion to approve the grant contract with the NC Department of Environmental Quality for the Cabana at Middleton Park ADA beach access improvements as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Next item of business, if I didn't lose my place and ended the agenda.
All right. So be Pepper. Here.
Yes.
Consideration fee schedule amendment for pier fees. Mayor Pro Tem Weinkauf.
We're gonna do the 801?
No, you had yours first.
Okay, all right.
Fees.
When we got fees at our retreat, there was things that didn't wind up looking right. I'd like to amend the fees for the season pass of King Fisherman. The price for that will be $345. The senior King Pass will be $320, and the military something new King Pass will be $320. For the couples King Pass, $520. Couples senior King Pass, $470, and the couples military King Pass, $470.
Jeff, is this going back to what it was before?
Pretty close, right there, yeah. It's right there close to what it was. We never did have the military, so that's a new one that was added.
Okay.
Any discussion?
I make a motion that we approve these amendments.
Just to be clear, Councilman Weinkauf, so we're recalculating this based on the number of days, is that correct?
Yes, we're calculating compared to what?
Thank you.
Yes,
I'll move the item.
okay.
I think Councilor Weinkauf already.
Made a motion.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Next item of business. Adding consideration of development of business plan at 801 Center by Councilman Bach.
This is, as Councilman Weinkauf was mentioning earlier, there were a number of items that came up. This is one that came up during the course of the retreat, and I apologize that it wasn't in the pre-published agenda, and although I typically do not read things, I want to read the charge statement and then just make a comment about it. So, the acquisition of 801 Event Center represents a significant capital investment for our town. Stated goals of council are minimally that 801 becomes self-sufficient over a 2-year period beginning July 1, 2020. Optimistically speaking, council also desires that 801 eventually become a revenue generator for the town. In order to achieve these goals and to protect the taxpayers, I move that a business consulting firm be engaged for the purpose of designing and producing an official business plan for 801. In addition, said plan will include all necessary data in order to provide council with an independent assessment of the viability of 801, and not to exceed $15,000, which is the going rate for a small business plan. I have two comments about this one, just briefly. I was initially skeptical of 801, but we've made a commitment to this 2-year trial period. I think we have an obligation to support the pier manager to do everything that we can do to make this project successful. I think we also have an obligation to have the data that we need ultimately to make these reinvestments if that's what's needed, and/or to make a decision about where we go 2 years hence. And that's what's driving this. One can argue we should have done this or that, and the fact is we didn't. And now we need to amend that, and I think this is important because 801 has already required considerable reinvestment and is still in its infancy, and I do want it to succeed, and I do want to support the peer manager, not supplant her.
Any more discussion?
I think she would like to have some new floors and a little bit more welcoming atmosphere there as well.
Soundproofing technology, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I'll read the motion. I move that a business consulting firm be engaged for the purpose of designing, producing an official business plan. The said plan to include all necessary data, provide counsel with an independent assessment of the viability of the 801 Center, direct the administration to procure the firm via the RFP or request for proposal process, total cost not to exceed $15,000.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now we on to new business. Consideration of an annexation petition, Long Beach area, consideration of a resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition received under North Carolina General Statute 168-31, voluntary continuous annexation for partial. This is small partial, 3 plots, 2 are partial. In other words, they part in, part out. All in favor? Any motion? I'm sorry. There's a 3-step process on this.
Lisa, has all the notifications been done?
The notifications will come after this. What council has to do tonight is adopt the resolution directing me to investigate the petition.
And that's when you do the
anticipated that.
notification?
So I did the investigation of the petition, and then you accept that, and then you can adopt a resolution directing me to schedule a public hearing, and that's when the notification will be.
So we'll be able to raise questions after you proceed. Is that correct?
Yes, there'll be a public hearing at the March meeting.
In that case, I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second. All in favor? Everybody.
And the public hearing will be set for?
The March 10th meeting.
Thank you.
But this is a 3-step process. I'm sorry. It's painful. You have to first adopt the resolution directing the clerk to investigate.
Right, which
I
is
believe
what we
that was
just
your
did.
motion was. And then I need a motion to accept the sufficiency of the petition, and then I need a motion for you to direct me to schedule the public hearing.
I'll do all 3 of them.
One at a time. So you've done the first one.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the clerk's certificate of sufficiency, a petition for voluntary annexation for parcels number 220MA009, 220MA010, and 236DJ00107.
Second.
All in favor? C, consideration of resolution fixing.
We got one more.
One more.
It's on the next page.
Make a motion to ask you to set the public hearing.
Okay.
Is that good enough, or do I need to find it and read it?
Clarify. Yes, ma'am, if you would read it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
She's gonna make me read it. Hang on.
Can I say the date?
Fixing the date for a public hearing, see it?
No.
I told you it was painful. I'm sorry.
What page is it?
I'll make the
You go ahead and read,
I'll
baby.
make the motion.
I didn't want to read
Consideration of
it.
resolution fixing the date for the public hearing on the question of annexation.
I need to read that, Mr. Mayor. Consideration of a resolution fixing the date for a public hearing on the question of annexation pursuant to NCGS 16A-31 for parcels 236DJ00107, 220MA009 portion, and 220MA010 portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
And just to clarify, that was to set the public hearing for March 10th agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, consideration of annex petition, Pine Forest. This is part of one parcel.
Yeah, the majority of this development is already in the town. There's one parcel that the jurisdiction line actually crosses through and divides it out, and there's a small piece of that parcel that is not in the town's jurisdiction, and they would prefer that to all be in the town's jurisdiction.
All right. Consideration of resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition received under North Carolina General Statute 168-31, voluntary continuous annexation for partial.
Mr. Mayor, discussion, please. I'd like to ask Mr. Vares a question about this, since the topic of Pine Forest keeps coming up. This customary and usual, did they miss something in their original submission to us?
The applicant is here if
Okay.
they wanted to address that.
Okay, fine. That would be even better. I'm sorry.
The parcel, this area of the parcel was acquired after the initial, and so we're now asking that this be included.
So you acquired it after the original purchase?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It basically was acquired to give access on Highway 211, to have a curb cut there in addition to through the project.
And this is access into your commercial as well as your residential area?
It will go into the apartment complex, and then the rest of the project will be accessible on the backside, but this goes directly into the apartments.
And are there traffic implications from having this direct access, or has that already been cleared?
Well, the DOT has their project that is in whatever stage it may be, and they are acquiring right-of-way and have started moving utilities there, so.
Okay, so they're aware of your
They certainly are.
petition?
They've actually already acquired the front piece of our area.
Okay, thank you.
You could both identify yourselves for the record, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Amy Schaefer with Lee Case.
Kevin Henry, 201 Rushton Circle, Wilmington.
Thank you.
Mr. Hedrick, this was a different petition than yours. This doesn't have anything to do with yours.
Any discussion? Anybody like to make the motion?
I make a motion to adopt the resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition received under NCGS 160A31, voluntary contiguous annexation by 100% petition for parcel number 203-00024.
Second.
All in favor?
I make a motion to accept the clerk's certificate of sufficiency of petition for voluntary annexation for parcel number 203-00024.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm on a roll. You want to roll?
Go ahead, roll.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution fixing date of public hearing on question of annexation pursuant to NCGS 160A31, setting the public hearing for Tuesday, March 10th at 6 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Now, item number 3, discussion of speed limit on West Dolphin Drive, or need to make an ordinance change, or how does this council want to proceed?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would submit that we should have a discussion. So I'll start if you like, Mr. Mayor. I'm empathetic to the access concerns of our residents at the West End. But I also agree with one of the speakers earlier that we ought to have a comprehensive traffic flow, traffic study undertaken so that we don't keep flipping speed limits back and forth and changing our mind about where low-speed vehicles can go. I think that's a broader discussion than this particular point because it should be island-wide, but I'll say that as we start the discussion.
I'm in favor of changing West Dolphin to 35 miles an hour. I think it would be more consistent with what East Dolphin is. I do sympathize with not being able to get the low-speed vehicles down. I have spoken with several people that were talking about getting to the point. This is not going to help you get to the point in the wintertime. West Dolphin still ends at 54th, is it 54th Street, I think, west? So you'd still have to, is it
42nd, I believe.
42nd. You'd still have to go on to East Beach or West Beach Drive to get to the point in the wintertime, so it's not going to address that issue. I don't have a problem with changing it to 35 miles an hour.
I don't either.
I don't either. I think, I'm looking at it from a safety standpoint. I think it should be 35 all the time.
And I did live on West Dolphin for 15 years before I moved away. But it was always a nightmare before we had the humps, people speeding. But we need to be more consistent with our roads. We did our side roads and got consistent with 25 with that, and East Dolphin's already 35, so it makes sense just to make West Dolphin the same thing.
I make a motion to change West Dolphin.
You have the ordinance in front of you?
Ordinance.
I did prepare an ordinance for you.
I got it somewhere, Lucy.
You find it?
I got it.
So the top part of the page is what the current ordinance is, and if you're looking just to change the speed limit to 35, then you could change Section A, and that's how it would read, is what's proposed.
All right, that should be fine now. Proposed ordinance, if it's amended, speed limit for vehicle traffic upon town-owned public streets when the corporate limits of the town should be 25 unless otherwise posted or unless stated in this section. The speed limit for vehicle traffic on Yacht Drive and Dolphin Drive shall be 35.
Read number 8.
Oh, you got it wrong. Oh, A.
One on the bottom.
Yeah,
You read that.
Yeah.
He did. That's it.
What
That's
is
the proposed ordinance as staff was directed to amend.
I make a motion, we pass the proposed ordinance as amended, Section 8.
Second.
all in favor?
But, Mr. Mayor, I want to add a caveat again for the record. I think we should have a traffic study at some point.
You want to make a motion?
Budget retreat?
Yeah, I think I want to think about how that's parsed for the next meeting, but I think we need one. As I said, I'm empathetic to our citizens down there, but I think we need the data. Sorry to keep mentioning that ugly word.
Thank you. The consideration of motion to direct staff to begin the process to amend the UDO to require space be allotted for greenways and open space for parks and recreational uses, and I think, Mr. Fox, ain't this yours?
Yes, and I applaud the Recreation Department's master plan and where it conceivably could take us. It's comprehensive and it creates a multi-year approach. My sense alone, I suppose, my sense of the process is that, at least in this budget, we should begin to identify those things that can be done right now, and this is one of those. And I think we should move with alacrity on this, because potentially we could have other subdivisions come online. point was made earlier that the Recreation Department should be part of this, and I certainly agree with that as a consultative body. And so the motion is pursuant to Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I move that the administration, in conjunction with the town attorney, and I'm going to add Parks and Rec, Executive Board, develop language to modify the UDO to require major subdivisions to dedicate land to the town of Oak Island for recreational development. Henceforth, land dedication shall be included in all applications for a plat.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, item number 5, consideration of conducting a technology security audit for all the town systems. Do this also, Mr.
This
Bott.
is you, Mr. Bott.
Yes, I'm well aware. I want to say that most of us, we've talked a lot about parking and stickers tonight, but most of us have had a new and alarming experience in the public sector. Some store, business, God forbid, bank that we use has been hacked. That's an ongoing experience, or even worse, you're hacked personally. So it seems to me that we ought to have a cybersecurity audit on a fairly periodic basis. We need to make sure that our data, I'm talking about financial data, citizens' personal data, tax data, personnel's data, is locked down to the best of our ability. And in my experience working with this area, although we strive to do that, it helps to have an independent, cold-eyed look at it from the outside so that we can get recommendations on improving our security procedures, hence the recommendation for the audit.
And I agree. We actually had an issue today at the business where I work. Not so much a security breach, but a piece of equipment that failed. While the gentleman from IT was there from Wilmington, we were having this discussion, and I can't remember if he said Jonesville or it was some smaller town actually had to shut their doors for 30 days because they had a security breach. Do you remember where it was? Anyway, they ended up having to go to the bank and set up shop so that they could actually process payments. The bank actually gave them a office per se for 30 days until they could secure their system. So yes, I do agree.
Well, I mean, if the Pentagon can be hacked, the city of Atlanta can be shut down. I mean, Oak Island could be shut down. So we need to do what we can do. And so I'll read the motion unless there's further discussion, Mr. Mayor. So, and you'll forgive the rhetorical flourish here. I couldn't resist. In an age of digital lawlessness, it's imperative that municipalities secure their tech platforms, data, and financial records from unauthorized intrusion. Therefore, I move to conduct a security audit to ensure the safety of the town of Oak Island's systems and data, with said audit to be conducted by a duly accredited firm selected via the request for proposal process.
Second.
All in favor?
Very well said. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to consult with the town attorney who is not here.
That'd be convenient.
So if you'd like, you can have your closed session just for the personnel matter.
I would like to. I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss specific personnel pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A36.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
I was getting ready to say thanks, Scotty.
Gentlemen in blue, our faithful audience, thank you.
Me and the cleaning crew at the record.
Bring the session to order. Green lights, everybody here, yeah. Okay, there was no action taken.
I'd like to make a motion that we increase the manager's salary to $130,000, and that the contract be renewed and the clerk
And that we have the mayor execute the contract.
Mayor execute the contract with the clerk.
We have a second.
Second.
Before we do that, Mr. Mayor, so those who are viewing at home, we've done a comparative salary analysis comparing our community to other beach communities. We've looked at the size of the budget, the number of responsibilities in effect that our manager shoulders versus others. Our goal is to move him certainly to the mid-range. He's below that significantly, and therefore I second Councilwoman Bell's motion, or third it, as it were. I think it's already been seconded.
All in favor? Everybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good.
Yay.
John was going to ask a question.